Hello, today I'm going to teach you a skill, and it's going to be how to make a repeating pattern. And this is really useful because when you know how to make a repeating pattern, you can make things such as wrapping papers, you can make prints like wallpapers, fabrics, bedspreads, curtains. There are many websites out there where you can upload a repeating design and make fabrics, curtains, wallpapers, what else did I say? Wrapping papers. I'm not going to go through those today. I'm going to show you the process on how you can make your own repeating pattern, and it's dead easy. Once you get your head around it, it's dead easy. I'm going to be using my iPad and I'm going to be using the app Procreate, but you can use whatever you want. You can also take what I'm doing here and do it analog by getting some paper, pencils and scissors, and you'll see what I mean when you need the scissors in a little bit. Or if you've got any other computer programs, you will be able to replicate what I'm doing on my Procreate on whatever computer program you're using. So I'm just going to open this up and I'm going to get going. So first things first, I'm opening up a canvas, which is a square canvas, and if you're doing it on paper, you can just get a square piece of paper. So what I'm going to do is draw my design onto this canvas, but I'm going to make sure my design isn't touching any of the edges. That's really important for this first stage. So bearing that in mind, I'm going to get going right now. Okay, so I've finally done. My design is a hare. It's in the middle of my canvas. And what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to make sure all of my layers are collapsed, which they are. I'm going to duplicate that layer. And just to make sure I cover myself and make sure I haven't lost anything, I'm going to hide one of the layers and keep that. So basically I've duplicated my image and saved one just in case everything goes wrong, and then I've got my original image all backed up. So that's a hidden layer now. So on the layer that I've duplicated, I'm going to duplicate it again. On one of the layers, I'm going to move it all the way to one side. So it is important that you make sure when you're moving it to the right or the left that you move it accurately, because any slight change in height of the images will lead to the pattern not repeating. So a good way to do that is in your settings. So if you go to the cursor settings, make sure that snapping is on. And all that does is make sure that you can find the center of your image accurately. So it means that the center of each image will line up with each other. So when one image is moved all the way to the right, select the other image and move it all the way to the left. If you're using paper and scissors, what you need to do instead of this process is you need to cut your paper right up the middle and swap over the sides so that the left hand side is to the right and the right hand side is to the left. What this enables you to do, whether you're doing it on paper or on the computer, is see the white image, the white space in the middle, which was created by the edges. When you're doing like a framed piece of art, for example, if I was just doing this hair as a print, I wouldn't need to worry about the space around the outside because the hair is placed in the middle. But what happens is when you repeat it, this space here, the space on the edges will add up and it'll make this white space in the middle. So what you can do now is go ahead and add things into this space. I think I'm going to choose a nice spring flower, maybe a daffodil. Let's see if I can draw a daffodil. Oh, so before you start drawing, just make sure you merge those two layers together. What I'm going to do as well, just because I don't want to lose any of my stages, just in case anything messes up, I'm going to duplicate that layer and hide one of them. And then I've saved my progress up until this point. So on the layer that's not hidden, I'm going to fill in the gaps. Okay, so when you think you've finished your design and you have made sure that any additions that you've added to it haven't touched the edges, just like before, make sure that everything that's on your layer is merged together on that one layer. It won't matter if you're doing it with paper and scissors because it'll all be on one sheet of paper. And what you need to do is duplicate that layer, and then once again, to make sure we've saved our progress up until this point, hide one of those layers. Then with the layer that's visible, duplicate that, so you've got two layers, and then you've guessed it, we're going to select one of those layers and pull it down this time. So where before we moved one to the left, one to the right, this time we're going to move one down and one up. And if you're doing it with paper, all you need to do is cut a horizontal line this time. So before on paper you cut a vertical line, this time you're going to cut a horizontal line, and you're going to swap the top and the bottom, and it'll do exactly the same as it did before, but on a different axis. So it will show you any gaps that have been left by any space being on the edges. If you're doing it on the computer, merge those two halves back together. And then if there are any big gaps, so this is what I've been left with. If there are any big gaps in the middle, you can change those up now, or you can leave it if you want to, or you can add new things in that you wanted to add in and you haven't yet. So let's go. So this is what I've been left up with. And what you can do now to check your work is all lined up is to do the same again. So you duplicate your layer, you pull one to the right, one to the left, duplicate that layer, pull one to the top, one to the bottom, and you should be left with your original image with the stuff all around it that you've added on later, which we know doesn't have any gaps in between. And then I'll show you a trick to to make sure this actually does look pretty cool when it's repeated. So let's just do that now. Okay, so this is what I've been left with, and I can see that some of the flowers are a bit close here and there's a bit of a gap. I don't know, I quite like that, I quite like the randomness of that. But you can, if you want, change this. So I could get rid of those two flowers and put one there and put additional flowers in there to fill any gaps that haven't been filled in the other process. But I'm going to leave this, and let me show you how to check this is going to duplicate. Okay, right, so you're going to duplicate this layer. As always, I will save one of them. So when you've duplicated that layer, you deselect it so it's saved just as a backup. The one that's visible, duplicate that, and you're going to pull one of them. You're going to decrease the size and put it right to one of the corners. You're going to do that with the other one, and then you're going to duplicate the others and put them in the gaps. So this is what my pattern looks like repeated, and I quite like the random background with the uniform foreground. I think that works really well, but I'm not a pattern design expert. This is just the method that I'm showing you. So if you wanted your image to be big on your pattern, what you do is you would just save, so the one that we had before, you would just send that one. We know that that one repeats, and that image would be as big as the dimensions of your canvas. So mine is 21 centimeters by 21 centimeters. So if I printed that out, that's how big that would be. So if it was going on wallpaper, for example, that might be a good size, because that would be about that size, and that would be repeated all up the pattern. If you want lots of tiny little rabbits, what you do, or whatever your design is, so these are the ones that we had before, you can merge these down. So merge down, so that's all one layer now. And you can just do the same again, so you can duplicate it and bring it into the corner. I need to look at this properly to do this, because I'm looking for the snapping guides to be activated. And then just duplicate it and move it into the remaining corners that haven't got anything in. Like that. And if you wanted it to be smaller still, you could just merge those layers and do the same again. Like that. Obviously, if you're doing it on paper, when you reassemble your image, you can't very easily make your image very small or very large. That would have to be done either by a company who could do that digitally, or you could do it digitally by scanning your work in and then resizing it on the computer. But the original process of making sure you don't have many white gaps is the same for digital and for paper. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and found it instructive. If you do have any further questions, if there's something that you didn't quite understand or I didn't explain it well enough, do let me know in the video comments. I do read them all, and I will try and help if I can. But this is where I'm going to leave this video. So as always, you can catch me in the next one. So until then, bye.